All right, everyone. On behalf of the MIT RAISE initiative, we welcome you to the inaugural MIT AI in Education Summit. Woo! So I am here joined by our leadership of RAISE. I am Cynthia Breazeal. I am the director of RAISE. RAISE stands for Responsible AI for Social Empowerment and Education. And I'm also a professor at the Media Lab, and I'm Dean for Digital Learning at Open Learning. And Hal?
Yeah, I'm Hal Abelson. I'm a professor of computer science here at MIT, along with Eric and Cynthia. I'm one of the co-directors of RAISE, and mostly spending time running the MIT App Inventor project.
Great. Hello, everybody. I'm Eric Klopfer. I'm a professor here. I run our teacher education program, which focuses on preparing MIT undergrads who want to be math and science teachers. My research group is called the Education Arcade. We do a lot of work in ed tech, teacher professional development, and the integration of computer science and other disciplines. And educational games is our specialty. So thanks for all coming here today.
Wonderful. So I can tell you we haven't even started, and we've already exceeded our expectations. We are actually beyond capacity for this event. This was really amazing. So thank you all for coming. This has just been so exciting. Over 350 attendees from 30 countries. That is amazing. You know, we have a paper track. We have a 26% acceptance rate, so that gives you a sense of how competitive it was. We have great events like we have Hack the Climate, a hackathon. We have demos, lots of exciting things to learn about, to see, to do. And you're coming from, again, a diverse global community who are all passionate about AI in education, both from academia and researchers, teachers, both in informal and formal settings, nonprofits, NGOs, industry, philanthropy, you name it. And we have a lot of kids and parents, so welcome. Super exciting, and this would not be possible without the generous support of the Hong Kong Jockey Club Charities and Trust. So thank you so much for making this event possible with your support. So we wanted to give you a little bit of sense of what motivates all of us coming together, and also to tell you a little bit more about RAISE and what we do. I think people know that MIT is very active in this space, but we want you all to get to know us at MIT RAISE a little bit better as well. So what's bringing us together? Well, we all know, I mean, AI is transforming everything, industries, disciplines, you name it. It's in our personal and professional lives through our digital technologies. It's shaping our ideas, our concepts, how we work, our behaviors. It is something that is, you know, the genie is out of the bottle. Let's just say the AI genie is out of the bottle. And it is really time for us to really understand it and embrace it and learn how to design and use it responsibly. So AI is transforming everything. We have seen a lot of tremendous excitement around artificial intelligence in these disciplines, and we have also seen a number of examples where it has not been necessarily as positive as we might have intended. So we know there's examples of bias potentially in these systems that can result in inequities and important decisions like hiring decisions, getting a loan, and so forth. We have seen concerns around the misuse of AI, using it improperly. Examples like in the United States media of a lawyer making arguments in a legal case, leveraging generative AI based on cases that never existed. So, you know, people need to understand how to responsibly use these technologies. And of course, there's been a lot of concern around the impact on the future of work and people's employment. So for instance, again, in the United States, we had a many-month-long strike of the Actors and Screenwriters Guild for fear of a number of things, but also of the role of AI and how it was going to impact their creative industry. So again, lots of excitement, lots of potential, but also we need to use this carefully and responsibly. So I think it's important for us to really acknowledge and embrace this attitude that this is not about AI replacing us. And in fact, we need to be very conscientious in the way we educate and we design the systems so that AI enhances and elevates what we as human beings do. So Eric Klopfer was a professor here at MIT, is now at Stanford, wrote a very compelling article called The Turing Trap. But basically what he argues is automating labor, enhancing, augmenting labor with these technologies ultimately unlocks more value than if you just used AI to solve problems by itself. So augmenting people with these technologies opens up new frontiers and new opportunities, and that's really what we want to do, and do it responsibly. So, maybe said another way, this is not a question of AI replacing people, but people who can harness AI are going to be more competitive in jobs than people who are not. And we want to prepare our children, our society, for this increasingly AI-powered world that we find ourselves living in. So, with that, the mission of RAISE has been to advance equity in learning, education, and empowerment through artificial intelligence by rethinking and innovating holistically and equitably how to prepare diverse K-12 students and inclusive workforce. And we want folks to feel empowered and engaged and happy in this future of this AI-powered world that we're creating for ourselves. So said another way, our mission is to advance an empowered and wise human with AI future with, by, and for all. That is really the guiding principle that guides all of our work at RAISE. And so when we talk about AI literacy, AI fluency, it's really about demystifying how AI works. There's a lot of confusion by the media of what AI is, how it's designed, what its impacts are. We really want people to understand in an appropriate way how AI works and being able to really design it responsibly. We want to make sure that people have an informed voice of how AI should be integrated into society. This is very, very important. And we want to empower all kinds of people around the world to be able to use AI, harness AI to solve the important problems of their community. So this empowerment and this computational action is really central to the work that we do here at MIT RAISE. And you can see that evidence in our tools and our materials and our platforms that we freely share to people around the world. So there are 4 key impact areas in RAISE. As you all know, we're gathered here to really think quite a lot about the impact of AI in education for K-12, but we also think about workforce and beyond. So AI for workforce and upskilling. Again, I also wear a hat at Open Learning. At Open Learning, we do a lot of work in thinking about AI and workforce and upskilling. We invent new technologies for AI-augmented or AI-supported learning. So, of course, we're hearing this kind of the new excitement of generative AI and how that's advancing the use of personalized pedagogical agents. We certainly are advancing that forefront as well as other kinds of technologies and experiences. And we really, really are passionate about creating an inclusive world of AI-literate, AI-fluent people. Because it behooves everyone to be empowered with this technology, not to have imbalances of power or the ability to create with these. So the inclusivity has always been core to our mission. So in order to do that, it means here at MIT, it is a research and innovation initiative at its core. We do a lot of research in education. We do a lot of computational research in advancing new capabilities of AI systems. We innovate new pedagogical approaches. We design new kinds of curriculum with innovative ideas. We embed our tools and technologies, these platforms that allow people to learn through learning and making in new ways, that we're trying to understand and advance new knowledge. And then we try to embed these tools, these technologies, these pedagogies, these curriculum in programs and outreach programs that allow us to study and understand the impact of what we do, but also to help empower the world. So again, free and open is a value that we hold very dear at MIT writ large, but certainly here at RAISE. We have a number of international collaborations that are growing in order to help bring AI literacy to the world with you, by you, for you. And we're looking to try to, again, uplift and elevate on a global scale. So that is the big picture of what RAISE is about. And this conference is an example of this, that convening of you to here to engage in this dialogue, to collaborate, to spark new ideas, is, again, very aligned with what we're trying to achieve here at RAISE. So we're all going to kind of tag team this presentation. I'm going to just touch a little bit to give you an example of some of the work we do at RAISE for AI-augmented learning. And then I'm going to hand it over to Hal, and he's going to talk more about K-12 AI literacy and the tools that we're designing to do that. So just to give you a taste, again, of this impact area, in my lab, at the Media Lab and the Personal Robots Group, we've been advancing social robotics for many years, designing social robots that can support young children's learning through play and social emotional interaction has been an area we've been advancing for over a decade. A lot of this is how do we advance the social and emotional intelligence of machines so they can interact with us, understand us, collaborate with us more naturally. But then also to help elevate us, right? So we've worked a lot with at-risk schools in the United States, particularly looking at early child education to advance language and literacy skills, where we are looking to augment teachers and students. The robot does not compete with the teacher. We view it as a practice partner. So the teacher teaches, and the robot is a playful practice partner with children. And we think deeply about the social context. It should not be an isolating experience where the child just plays with the robot. It needs to be socially inclusive, as in this picture, with peers or teachers also involved in that interaction. We understand, we know learning is a fundamentally social process. We want to bring the human, the social aspect into that can be supported through the technologies that we create. So the "and" people is really important. The robot actually models peer-to-peer interactions. It's not trying to model a teacher at all. It's actually trying to model a slightly maybe more capable peer that plays these educational games with you and is kind of an empathetically supportive, encouraging playmate. And kids, of course, love this experience. And we do a lot of deep technical work in personalization of these interactions through how the robot real-time responds to children, understands their social emotional cues, and adapts its behavior and the content and everything about the interaction. To do this responsibly, we do a lot of co-design with stakeholders, so teachers in particular, but also the kids and in some cases parents as well, where we are working at this intersection of understanding people, the psychology, the engagement of this technology with people in context. We do a lot of human-centered design of these experiences, and again, we're advancing the computational capabilities of these machines through AI. We do this with this AI-powered personalization loop, and then a lot of co-design, again, with stakeholders to iterate and change and adapt to make sure that what we're developing makes sense for teachers, that they see this as a tool that's helping them, that children see this as a tool that's engaging for them to learn, and that parents see this as a technology that makes sense for them as well. So again, just to appreciate that we really try to take a holistic, multi-stakeholder approach in what we do. So this is an example of a robot Tega that we've designed. Again, engaging a child as this personalized, emotionally engaging practice partner. I just want you, I'm going to play this video just so you could kind of get a sense of the experience of the interaction between this robot and this child, and maybe how this differs from other kinds of pedagogical agents you may be familiar with on the market.
What are we trying
So there's a game.
We are trying
It's
to
called
find
Word
lavender
Quest.
color stuff.
It's kind of inspired by the game of I Spy.
Okay.
So the child and the robot take turns. The challenge word is lavender. The child is panning through these scenes, trying to find things that are consistent with the word lavender. And you can see she's familiar with the word lavender, but she doesn't quite remember what it means. So she tries something. She actually gets it wrong.
You will do better next time. I believe in you.
The robot expresses confidence in her. Look at that nonverbal cue. She comes right in. Now it's the robot's turn, but look at how engaged she is.
Purple.
Yeah.
She's touching the robot. There's this sense of like, almost like a Disney sidekick sort of experience. Gaze, clearly a sense of companionship and support. Now the robot actually makes a guess.
I believe.
And the girl says back to the robot, I believe in you. So we think about these technologies and not only just how it helps children learn concepts and skills, but even these pro-social behaviors like expressing confidence and support in your peers. And we're seeing that children, through this kinds of experience, reinforce these social emotional skills as well as these cognitive skills. So the slide shows you, we've published on this work, we've seen a lot of improvements in the personalization around language and literacy skills, but also these other things like developing a growth mindset, developing curiosity. We've started to also look at the context of this robot in home environments where the robot can support parents in a triadic interaction to help the dialogue between parents and children become richer. And we've gotten some really nice experiences and results with that too. So that's just to give you a taste of the kind of more deep computational AI-driven work that we do. At this point, I want to hand it over to Hal Abelson, who's going to talk about how we've been working to transform learning with students with AI. All right.
Okay. Thanks, Cynthia. Let me start again by thanking all of you. I mean, this whole thing is really about what you've been doing, what your students are going to be doing, and what you're going to be doing. So this is really about celebrating the things you've done. I am just overwhelmed by how many people are interested enough to be here. We're talking about the future. I want to start by talking about the intellectual roots of what we're all doing. I've been at MIT for a long time, almost 50 years. And when I showed up, I was extremely fortunate to run into a math professor by the name of Seymour Papert, who really, I think, is the foundation of so much of what you hear about us talking about at MIT in education, and in fact all over the world, and in fact in much of what everybody talks about in terms of computational thinking. Shortly after I showed up, he was working on this remarkable paper, 1971, called Teaching Children Thinking. Right? It was not called Teaching Student AI. It wasn't called, even though Papert himself was co-director of the MIT Artificial Intelligence Lab. Right? It wasn't called Thinking about Computer Literacy, even though Papert really worked in that. It was called Teaching Students Thinking. And he basically said that what I think is the key quote there, which is imagine an educational system in which technology is something that children themselves learn to manipulate. Notice he said manipulate and apply to projects. He didn't say learn about. And that's really, really critical. And what that reflects is an educational philosophy that Power talked about called constructionist learning. Constructionism basically says you create your own knowledge by actually making things, interacting with them, and really building stuff. You'll hear the third word out of every word that certainly Cynthia and Eric and I say, you'll hear building. It is so critical to the way we think about stuff. And that really goes back to this educational philosophy called constructionism that comes from Papert. It's still pretty unique now. People talk about, they talk about curriculum, and they talk about, am I doing good explanations of things? And it's not about explaining things. It's about giving kids the experience to really work and express their ideas through manipulating these extremely powerful technologies. And one of the things that I think even Papert, that even Papert didn't envision, way back 40, 50 years ago, is the idea that with today's technology, kids have the ability to make a real positive difference and a positive impact on the world. So that's what's really different for us today than it was in the long time we at MIT have been working on this. It's really different, and you have these unique opportunities to show that your students can really make changing in the world. Let me show this. What we call this is computational action. Right? So computational action means, can I make things that have an impact on my life and my family and maybe even my community, and making a societal impact? That's the opportunity that all of us have today that wasn't really true 5 years ago, even though there's been computing education for 50 years. But what's really special and what's really open to us is using this stuff to make an impact. I've been doing it through App Inventor. Many of you use App Inventor. App Inventor has grown enormously over the last 5 years. We're kind of overwhelmed. Our server at MIT hosts 1.2 million users a month. And we're in pretty much every country. But in particular, I want to stress that half of our users are from the developing world. So this is not just a technology for the rich countries or the very privileged. This is a technology for the whole world. That's the opportunity that's really in front of us right now. We have, what's it say there, 84 million projects a year. The thing that I like to celebrate is since we announced App Inventor in 2011, there have been 100 million app projects created. That's just quite remarkable. It's a real change in the world, but the point is, can we use that to empower our students? It's really about empowerment, and I even want to say empowerment more than it's about understanding. So there's a video here. If I press this, it'll play the video.
My name is Liliana Fournier.
My name is Jessie Magenyi.
And my name is Victoria Leith, and my project is Tree Saver.
And we were basically getting information about deforestation in Massachusetts. And we used that information to make an app
Where people can click it and ChatGPT will give them information on how they can help save trees and help their community.
We found that it was really important because it's such a stable part to human life. Sort of in the backyard of our school, we're filled by trees. Trees are everywhere. And then not even 30 minutes out in Boston, there's really no trees at all. So sort of that duality and like that drastic change was really interesting and intrigued all of us.
The future is kind of scary to think about because with the way the climate is changing and all that's happening, I feel like if there's no change done fast, I feel like the future would not be a good one.
The whole point of our project is to help people find ways to help their community and help the environment by improving the amount of trees that are cut down. AI can make us a more powerful person because it can help us find ways to connect with others and help us connect and gain more information that we couldn't get ourselves.
It could still be mastered because it's so new, and I feel like getting that in schools everywhere, you could really find like the new greatest minds that will be able to use AI for the better of the world.
And yes, we did. I felt powerful, like I can do this, and I feel like I can make an app now that can change the world.
Okay, make an app that changes the world. Anyone right now can create apps that have global impact. Right? Not just the technologists working at big companies, not even just smart students who are at MIT, but anyone can do this, and that's what we really need to understand. Let me give you my favorite example of this. This is from India. It's from Dharavi, which is one of the largest slums in India outside of Mumbai. Has about 1 million people in it. The average monthly income, I think, is about $50,000. And there's a group of girls aged 13 to 16 in Dharavi who are using mobile technology to make things that improve the lives of their community. One of the things they did with App Inventor is they made an app that schedules my family's time at the community water distribution plant. Right? And it saves time and stuff. And of course to those girls, because you know who the family is going to go send to fight with everyone at the water distribution plant. So it's very personally meaningful to them. But their belief is that they're really doing this as a service to everyone in Dharavi. And that's the attitude that I think our students can have, our young people can have, that they really can be empowered to make the world a better place. And that's what's different now than in the decades of people teaching about computers. It's about what kids can do right now with this technology. And then the thing to realize is, even though I'm talking about what could happen in the last couple of years, there's another change that has happened this year, or maybe last year, and it's really the tremendous opportunity that we have. We've all been talking about generative AI and that. Think about how we take this attitude of constructionism and this attitude of empowerment and say, let's integrate these new AI technologies that are coming that are so powerful. In App Inventor, we're doing a couple of things. We're making it very, very easy for young people to create original apps that call on the various chatbots. Right? So suddenly this chatbot thing is not merely an interesting thing that I can talk to, but it's something that I can build into an actual application, an original application that the young person is making, that can really help realize my vision of making the world a better place. Of course, what's happened, over the last even couple of months is that this is not just words, it's images, it's paintings. Just released, right, in the last month or so is the ability to do this with video. And I think it just released is the ability to do this with music. So there's an enormous power here, but the thing to say about it, it's not just for kids doing demonstrations of stuff. It's how does that actually empower them to change the world? And then the last part we're doing is there's tremendous emphasis on doing things with data sources and databases. And one of the things you can do is you can have people go collect data, right, and look at phenomenon, and then go to one of these AI systems and say, explain this graph, explain this spreadsheet. That's one of the things we're working on. It's tremendously, tremendously exciting, right? Because it means that it's not merely that young people are looking at data, it's that young people are able to interpret this data. And that's just beginning, but I think it's one of the most exciting things we're working on now. So let me turn this over to Eric. But just to emphasize, the stuff we're doing today that you're involved in is part of a pretty long tradition at MIT. But there's a part of it that is really brand new. You have opportunities that just didn't exist even a couple of months ago. So we're really glad that you're here, and I'm really looking forward to the great things that you and the young people you're working with can create. So let me turn this over to Eric.
Thanks, Hal. I'm pretty sure that Hal and Cynthia knew we'd be running late at this point, so they put the guy from Long Island who talks really quickly in the last spot here. So I'll do my best to catch us up. So thanks. There's a lot of sort of frameworks that help us think about AI literacy, building off of what Hal and Cynthia both just talked about. And some of those focus on employability, what kids need to know in order to sort of be employable in the future. But if we think about sort of this hierarchy, the Bloom's taxonomy here that many of you may be familiar with, and we really think that everybody needs to know and understand AI, everybody needs to use and apply AI, there's pretty good commonality amongst the frameworks around this. But this last part about evaluating and creating AI is not something that they all think about, but we think is really important here, and it sort of underlies a lot of what we do in RAISE, is really thinking about how we move people way up on that Bloom's taxonomy to making sure that all kids, not just sort of the ones who are going to be sort of AI professionals, all kids should be able to create things with AI and make them engaged citizens and creative thinkers. Part of this is thinking about, we've recently sort of been changing our language around thinking about what does AI literacy look like instead of its AI fluency. It's a much deeper understanding, it's a much more thorough understanding, and involves all these different components here, which I won't read out, but you'll see it in some of our reports and things like that. But it's about all these ideas, including the ethics of AI, which we think is also important for all kids to know and understand. Let me talk a little bit about some of the other side of things about the idea of AI as AI-augmented learning. And there's a lot of hype around companies, ed tech companies and other companies coming up with sort of solutions for education that will solve education by coming up with one-on-one tutors. I sort of use this phrase here, a professor in every pocket, and obviously that's threatening to me as a professor, like a lot of other educators and other professions out there that feel like AI is a threat to them. And I'll tell you why I'm not threatened by this. Because the idea that AI, that there's a professor in every pocket, this idea sort of is a really sort of trivial idea of what learning looks like. The question really is, does AI improve learning? And what does learning look like? How do we define learning? And in many cases, learning looks like this. It's something that's just a simple retention. I see an equation on the board. I need to remember that equation. I need to be able to solve that equation. I need to be able to solve an equation that looks a lot like that. 2 minutes later. But this isn't what the big challenges of learning are. The simple retention in the short term doesn't solve a lot of our problems. We need to be thinking much more holistically about the ways we approach education and thinking about the entire system that we want to be able to change. We need to be able to design for the whole student. We think about the student not just as someone who needs to learn a simple math equation in our class, but someone who needs to feel empowered, someone that needs to feel like they're part of a community, someone that feels like they can persist, someone feels like that they can belong. There's so many other parts to an education process beyond the retention. And of course, I think AI can play an important part in both of these, but we can't just sort of come up with simple solutions to come up with problems like that. In many ways, we're sort of misaligned in our goals in a lot of these projects. Part of this points to the need for research. This is thinking about the professor in your pocket, sort of displacing my job. This is my job, the need for research. These are two paraphrased headlines that I've seen over the last month of journal articles. One saying that ChatGPT may harm learning, another one saying that ChatGPT is on par with human tutors. The answer right now is that these both might be right, but we really need a lot more work to understand, what is it about these systems that's working and not working? Who are they working for? In what context are they working? And define what working is. What are the learning outcomes? The learning outcomes in these two different studies might be really different. I do want to make a quick note. These and many of our other pictures are generated by AI. You may see that the headlines are a little screwy here, but in fact, the one on the right I needed to alter because ChatGPT really just wanted to write the word turret, which I don't know what it means, but it was very insistent on writing turret instead of tutor. AI must support teachers and supporting students. You can think about systems like Cynthia was just talking about, where there's adults sort of in the loop. Those are really important to be thinking about. This is not just sort of a one-on-one tutor between kid and AI. It's about sort of a whole community. How do you think about AI playing a role inside that community? How do you think about teachers supporting students? How do you think about teachers, the role of teachers in that community in supporting their development? Education is not just about sort of learning facts. Education is a whole developmental process. And we need to think about how do we support teachers in being more effective and lowering their burden and being able to do that. Teachers must be part of the AI conversation. Unrelated note, anybody here from LAUSD? A couple people, so many of you may know that LAUSD sort of had some struggles with their AI education solutions. I think it was a result of a process where teachers weren't really sort of a part of the process of making decisions about AI. They're not part of the design process for thinking about AI. They're not really sort of a part of what the thinking about what do we actually need in schools, what do kids need. We really need teachers, and you'll see a little kid in that room, and kids to be a part of that conversation about what does AI actually need to do in order to be effective educational solutions. Thank you. As part of that, teachers need to stay up to date on AI. And unlike previous educational technologies, this means something that's continuous. This is a course that we helped develop along with Google, Generative AI for Educators. You can find this online. It's a 2-hour course for educators. Probably most of you in this room don't necessarily need this course, but you can share it with your colleagues. But all teachers are going to be able to stay up to date on what AI is, even if it's a matter of just understanding why I don't want it in my classroom. You just need to be able to understand it to have that to be able to make those decisions. Everybody in this room, and probably many of your colleagues, are the pioneers. You're the ones who need to be able to experiment and share. I talked about research, and formal research is important, but so is just sharing amongst the community. And everybody here needs to be able to share their practices, find venues like this one where you can share your experiences, both positive and negative, with others. And policy is a really important part of this picture, and everybody here should also be involved in that policy. I'll point back to the LAUSD example. Again, teachers need to be sort of involved in the process of making policy in their communities, their states, their countries, et cetera. So I really think it's important for everybody here to be a part of that policy making. I'll just give 2 quick pointers here. You can read more. This is a paper that we wrote this past spring, Generative AI in K-12 Education and MIT Perspective. I'll leave it up here for a second so you can take a picture of the QR code. It's sort of a position paper from Hal and Cynthia and myself and others thinking about how do we think about the future, the near-term future of AI in K-12 education. And this is one we just released, I think last week, on how policy can help ensure the proper use of AI in K-12 education. And so you can also find that online. I'll leave it up there for one more second. And I'll turn it back over to Cynthia.
All right. Thank you. So 3 MIT professors, and we're only 5 minutes over. All right, I'm going to be quick. So I just want to, again, talk a little bit about the outreach and impact. And of course, you're all here to be able to share the amazing work that you're doing. So just to highlight, there's a couple of presentations here that are our RAISE initiatives from our PhD students, our collaborators, our research scientists. Again, we're so excited to hear about all the great programs that you're involved in as well. We are scaling globally, as I mentioned, through these programs. Our Dave AI program is probably the largest one at this point. We have engaged tens of thousands of teachers over 100 countries around the world. Again, a lot of this is about MIT trying to uplift and accelerate all the important work that you're doing. And again, a lot of that is having you come here to be able to share your work and your practices. So again, just to kind of wrap it up, when we empower teachers and students and stakeholders with these attitudes and mindsets and tools, I mean, like, what are kids actually solving with AI? They want to make a more just society. They want to create a thriving planet, and they want a flourishing people with all the projects and all the solutions that they create. So they are truly, truly inspiring. And again, I'm so thrilled to have so many students here today at our event to share their enthusiasm and their passion. So again, just to say welcome. We are so delighted to have you here at this event to share your experiences, your wisdom, your best practices, what's been working and not working. Really looking forward to the fantastic conversation with you here today. Thank you. Great. And a huge shout out to the organizers of this event. Marisol Diaz was really the mastermind of this, so big shout out to Marisol. Rupa Shah has also been really instrumental, and a lot of folks from the RAISE team and our dear friends and collaborators. So just again, thank you to everyone for making this such a fabulous event. All right. Okay, now I'm done. Thank you.